Long ago, in the heart of the lush Idui kingdom, there lived a humble farmer named Okemori, and his beautiful wife, Adeku. They had only one child, a girl named Olama, whose eyes sparkled like the morning dew and whose heart was as gentle as the harmattan breeze. But tragedy struck when Olama was just 10. Her mother, Adeku, died during a fever that swept through their village. On her dying bed, Adeku called for Olama and whispered, "My child, when life becomes too heavy, speak to me. I will live inside this calabash." She pressed a small, smooth white calabash into Olama's hands. It was plain, with cowrie shells tied around its neck and a faded symbol etched on its base, the ancient sign of Enenyogu, the mother spirit. From that day, life changed. Okemori remarried. His new wife, Ngozi, was a harsh and jealous woman who saw Olama's beauty as a threat to her own daughter, Amush. While Olama fetched water, swept floors, and tilled the land, Amush was pampered and praised. In the palace of King Ozoemena, news broke that the festival of the Golden Drum was near, a celebration held once every 10 years where the prince would choose his bride. The prince, Obina, had returned from training in a distant land. He had refused all arranged marriages, saying he would marry only a woman whose soul was clean and voice was kind. Every maiden in the land prepared. Tailors worked day and night. Beads were bought from traders who traveled across the river Niger. Ngozi made sure Amush had the finest clothes, and also oak threaded with gold, coral beads, and a geli wrapped high like royalty. But Olama. Ngozi tore her only wrapper and locked her in the yam barn the night before the festival. Tears streaming down her face, Olama reached for the white calabash she had kept hidden for years. She whispered, "Mama, I don't know what to do." Suddenly, a soft glow lit up the calabash. A sweet-smelling breeze filled the barn, and Adeku's voice echoed gently. "My child, wipe your tears. Tonight, the world will know your worth." The calabash opened, and from it rose items unlike any seen in Idui. A wrapper woven from sunset and starlight. Slippers made of silk spun by night moths. And beads that hummed like drums when she walked. The barn doors unlocked by themselves. A path lit with fireflies led her to the festival. The festival was full of music and food. Daughters of chiefs, merchants, and nobles danced before the prince. Amush danced too, twirling like a peacock, smiling like a snake. But when Olama entered, the entire courtyard fell silent. She did not boast. She did not sing loudly. She walked with grace, and when she spoke, her voice reminded everyone of the rivers that ran through their land. Prince Obina could not look away. He took her hand and whispered, "Who are you?" "I am Olama, daughter of Adeku, born of the earth and raised by love." The prince placed the golden drum pendant around her neck, the sign of his chosen bride. Ngozi and Amush stared in shock. The following morning, Ngozi, burning with rage, accused Olama of witchcraft. She appeared like a ghost. She bewitched the prince, she shouted at the elders. The king called for a trial before the oracle of Idemalai. There, the priestess brought out a sacred mirror that revealed the truth in one soul. When Amush stood before it, her heart was dark with envy. When Ngozi stood before it, her lies turned to smoke. But when Olama stepped forward, the mirror shone like daylight, and a vision appeared, Adeku's spirit, blessing her daughter with a kiss on the forehead. The elders bowed. Even the priestess wiped a tear. Prince Obina stood tall. Only a woman raised by a mother spirit can carry such light. Olama and Obina were married in a festival grander than any before. Villagers from across kingdoms came. The white calabash was placed in the royal shrine as a symbol of eternal maternal love. Olama ruled as queen with kindness and strength. She built a home for orphan girls and taught them to honor their mothers, living or past. And every year, on the night of the festival of the Golden Drum, she would sit by the shrine, place her hand on the calabash, and whisper, "Thank you, Mama. I am everything you dreamed." Years had passed since the humble girl, Olama, rose to become queen of Idui. Under her rule, the kingdom prospered. She brought back festivals that honored ancestors, reformed markets to protect the poor, and led women into the council, something never done before. The people loved her. But the palace walls whispered with jealousy. Some nobles resented her. They saw her as a girl from the farm, unworthy of the golden throne. And worst of them all was Lady Urena, the widow of a former chief and mother to one of the rejected maidens at the festival of the Golden Drum. She envied Olama's beauty, grace, and the prince's love for her. "That calabash is witchcraft," she would mutter. No commoner rises that fast. One stormy night, as thunder shook the sky, a loud crash echoed from Olama's shrine room. Palace guards rushed in to find the white calabash shattered into pieces. Olama fell to her knees. Her mother's spirit no longer whispered. She cried for days. But worse news came: the prince had fallen gravely ill, struck by a mysterious fever that no healer could cure. His body burned, and he called out Olama's name in confusion. The court grew restless. Whispers of curses and bad omens filled the air. Lady Urena struck like a cobra. She went before the council of elders. "This queen, she brought strange powers to this palace. Since her arrival, we've seen magic, sickness, and imbalance. The gods are not pleased." Many elders, especially the older ones, nodded in fear. They remembered stories of Ogbanj and spirit wives. The council, under pressure and fear, ordered a royal cleansing and declared that Olama must be temporarily exiled until the prince was healed and the oracle consulted. Heartbroken, Olama left the palace in silence, wearing only a plain wrapper and her mother's cowrie necklace. But she left behind something no one saw, a single piece of the broken calabash, hidden beneath her bed. Olama walked for days, through forest and hills, until she reached her mother's village, Odoma, the village of moonlight. There, she met Mama Ekojuba, an old seer and friend of her late mother. "Your mother's spirit is not gone," she said. But when the calabash was broken by unclean hands, her spirit fled into the sacred woods, the forest of wailing winds. To restore the calabash, Olama must go alone into the forest and retrieve her mother's spirit in the form of a burning light that hides from evil. The forest was a place of fear, where no one dared enter. It was said to be where the dead whisper and the living lose their minds. Inside, Olama was tested. A crying child begged her to carry him, but he turned into a snake. A tree with her mother's voice begged her to stay, but it was a trick to trap her soul. Dark spirits tempted her with a crown of fire to replace her husband and rule alone. But Olama held her mother's cowrie necklace and sang the lullaby Adiku used to hum. At last, a ball of golden light floated before her, pulsing like a heart. "Are you ready to carry my fire again?" it asked. She nodded, and the light entered her chest. The trees parted, and she emerged. Back in Idui, chaos had grown. The prince's condition worsened. Lady Urena had begun dressing in royal robes, whispering to the council that the prince had chosen her in dreams. But on the night of the full moon, Queen Olama returned, dressed in white, her skin glowing with the fire of her mother's blessing. She held a restored calabash, reforged with silver and red thread, a symbol of pain and power. The moment she stepped into the prince's chamber, the fever broke. Prince Obina opened his eyes and whispered, "My son, my Olama." The next morning, Olama called a council meeting. She poured libation, then opened the calabash. The spirit of her mother appeared in shimmering form before the entire court. She pointed her glowing hand at Lady Urena. "It was her, she shattered my home and cursed my daughter's love. She poisoned the prince with herbs of forgetfulness." The ground cracked where Urena stood. The guards seized her. She begged for mercy but was banished to the desert. Queen Olama restored her rule, stronger than ever. She rebuilt the Calabash shrine and turned it into a temple for mothers, where daughters could come for strength, protection, and truth. And every year, on the night of the Golden Drum, she would retell the tale of how a mother's love, even in death, can shield, guide, and conquer the deepest darkness. Years after Queen Olama reclaimed her throne and exposed Lady Urena's treachery, Idui flourished. Her husband, Prince Obina, now king, recovered fully and ruled with wisdom. Together, they had a son, Chidra, born under the eclipse moon, a sign of both destiny and danger. The calabash, now reforged with silver and red threads, sat on a sacred altar beside the royal bed. Olama often whispered into it, speaking to her late mother, Adeko, whose spirit remained her guide and protector. But deep within the palace, something dark was stirring. Among the queen's new maidservants was a girl named Ezeki, quiet, slender, and always watching. She came from a distant village and claimed to be an orphan. Olama, with her usual kindness, took her in and gave her duties in the inner chamber. But Ezeki was not what she seemed. At night, she whispered into a black god, an object that pulsed with shadows. Her real mother, Ajeromi, was a feared priestess banished years ago for trying to summon Ola Ekwensu, the spirit of deceit. Ezeki had been sent to steal the calabash and destroy Olama, not for the throne, but for revenge. Ezeki began her plot slowly. She added strange herbs to the queen's bathwater, causing Olama to fall ill and lose her strength. Then she poisoned the minds of other palace staff, spreading whispers. Did you know Olama speaks to the dead? Did you hear the queen's child is marked by the eclipse? That's not natural. Soon, even Prince Chidra, barely 8, began having dreams, visions of his mother vanishing in smoke and fire, replaced by a woman with serpent eyes. One night, Olama awoke to find the calabash missing. Panic gripped her heart. She called on the guards, but Ezeki was gone. A trail of black feathers led to the royal garden, where sacrifices were found, chickens without heads, chalk circles, and the broken shard of a mirror that once belonged to her mother. Olama collapsed. The palace shook. That very night, King Obina fell into a trance, unable to wake. With her husband unconscious and the calabash stolen, Olama knew what she must do. She took her son, Prince Chidra, and traveled to Oguma Hill, a forbidden mountain where only the pure-hearted may go. It was there that spirits of ancestors gathered to judge mortals. On the hill, Olama called out with tears. Mother, the blood in the palace is thick with lies. I need your fire again. Suddenly, the clouds parted. The spirit of Adeko rose from the earth, surrounded by a ring of spirit mothers, women who had died with unfulfilled destinies. They gave her a new gift. A twin calabash, black and white, one for light, one for justice. But they warned. To use this power, you must face death without fear. The child must lead you. Back in Idui, Ezeki returned to the palace dressed in royal beads, claiming the queen had fled and the king had chosen her as second wife in secret. Some elders believed her. But just as she approached the throne, Queen Olama entered, holding her son and the twin calabashes. Ezeki laughed. You think these people still believe in your magic tricks? But Olama stepped forward and poured libation from the black calabash. Smoke filled the hall. Each person present saw a vision. Ezeki killing chickens and placing poison in the queen's water. Her mother, Ajeromi, guiding her from the underworld. The moment she shattered the mirror that held Adeko's protective spirit. The hall gasped. Then Chidra stepped forward and lifted the white calabash. His voice rang clear. Let my grandmother's spirit rise. Let the truth burn through every lie. Adeko's full spirit appeared. The palace trembled. Ezeki screamed as her skin turned to scales, and her eyes glowed red. She had been possessed. The spirit mothers banished her, pulling her body into the earth like a swallowed curse. Peace returned to Idui. King Obina woke. He embraced Olama and their son, full of pride. The twin calabashes were placed in a newly built temple, the house of the two fires, one for justice, one for mercy. Olama's legend grew across kingdoms. Chidra, the son of the moon and fire, was declared the heir of light. It was said that when he grew older, no darkness could ever stand before him. And every full moon, Queen Olama would sit by the shrine and whisper into both calabashes. Mother, your fire still burns. Through me, through him, through all who walk with truth. The end.